Insurance costs going up 400% in California on homeowners. A Fallbrook resident got hit with that. On top of that, don't let the cancer of California spread across the nation. Here's the ABC 10 report.
A nearly 400% increase in the cost of her homeowner's insurance premium. The resident says the bill came suddenly and without explanation. Team 10 investigative reporter Austin Gravish has been covering the state's insurance crisis. He's reported on companies pulling out of the state and talked to homeowners facing nightmares trying to get insurance. Now he follows through and shows us how the state insurance commissioner is responding to this latest.
Calfart Lara, our insurance commissioner, the gay blade, who partied who knows doing what, for tens of hundreds of $1,000s on our dime. This lady we're going to see later on, 400%, just in the last couple of years, 900%, almost 10 times higher in the last 6 or 7 years. Everyone better get their, as they say, act together, or we're all going to be in a heap of trouble. On top of that, this is what's coming. Remember Obamacare and all that? Health insurance up 300%. $300%. In just a couple decades. It's coming. Everybody better start being prepared for this, or you're going to hate life. You're going to be in the poorhouse. You're going to be wishing you had the life of the slaves in the 17 and 1800s when this is all done. Hulk Hogan's cause of death was released, and it was pretty much figured that it was a heart attack, the medical examiner said. So rest in peace. Hulkster, he really made wrestling. Wrestling took it from a regional kind of, hey, a few people showed up, to a probably a multi-billion, if not trillion-dollar industry. Here's some of the vote that moves, the Hispanic vote especially, that moved in Texas.
Shifts within Texas might be adding fuel to this.
Exactly right. They wouldn't necessarily be able to do this if, in fact, Republicans, Donald Trump did not do so much better among Latino voters last time around than he did in 2020, because 4 of the pickup opportunities are majority Hispanic seats. In 2024, get this, Donald Trump actually won Latino voters by 10 points in Texas. In 2020, it was Joe Biden who won him by 17 points. That's nearly a 30-point switcheroo.
That's unheard of. Nearly a 30-point switcheroo. Trump voters, among Latinos, they said, we want Donald J, as you see. 17 points for Biden, 10 points for Trump. No wonder they're going to pick up 5 seats by redistricting in Texas. Newsom's going to get his ass handed to him if he tries it here. California, who's watching the kids? We're going to get more in depth in this, but you don't think there's problems in River City or Riverside County or California? We can't even take care of kids per the grand jury report. Plus, even if we do these $150 million facilities, Karen Spiegel, supervisor, says California isn't worth a darn. That's why we were sending them out. And who got rid of that? Guess who?
Look, I don't know, Mr. Van Wagenen, if you want to do a real high-level brief response to that, because there's always the things that aren't said, and you're only hearing the negative. And there is much more to it that I just do want to make one statement. I don't think you will do that. And that is, for these high-level youth that we have, that she was referring to in Harmony Haven and that Mr. Bleckard was, the challenge we have is we used to have resources that we were able to meet those needs of that kind of behavior with places, but quite often they were out of state. Governor Newsom does not allow us to take any children out of state, even though there's better resources for some of these behaviors that we're trying to work through with these young folks.
So what Miss Spiegel is saying, give them 100,000, give them 26 million, which I believe is what they paid for Harmony Haven out in Beaumont. 150 million is your Hood Van Wagelen says they're investing in it, and you could still get better care out of California. Where in any of it shows grand jury report that roasted Riverside County for treating the foster kids, for their treatment of them. You're going to hear the Turpin case is the absolute biggest high profile that shows their absolute failure. And until they deal with this stuff honestly, they haven't given us an answer why it happened twice to the Turpin kids. When you can do that, supervisors, JVW, Chang, all you over at DPPS, you're probably still going to get roasted reports from the grand jury, the citizens, and everyone else. So how about a little accountability and transparency and just plain being honest? Lee Zeldin, EPA director, is going to get rid, along with Donald J., some of these idiotic climate change stupidity. Fox News report.
Your point, which is it's so key, the consumer choice dynamic. You know, we often get asked when we're critical of the electric vehicle mandate, as if we want to say that you're not allowed to have electric vehicles. That is not at all what any of us are saying. You should be able to get whatever type of car you want, whatever type of lawnmower you want, and to the example that you just pointed out. Part of this...
yeah. Why not go to your hardware store or your lawnmower shop. Try to find a gas-powered lawnmower. There are none. This is it. It's not saying if you want to buy an electric car or electric weed blower, knock yourself out. I want to get the job frickin' done and get done with it, not 5 minutes and the battery wears out and you got to charge it for 6 months. Just like your car. Screw that. Life's too short to be yanking around with stuff like that. He even has a gas can update that we had. Maybe we'll get to that in a bit. Here's the one we'll get to later. Big, humongous shift just in 2 years. This is a Pew Research poll. Unbelievable shift, especially 18 to 29-year-olds and especially men. But a whole right shift across the board. We'll be getting more in depth with that. Here's something that we definitely need to bring back. 1975 Arlington High School motocross team. Ask the question, do high schools still have MX teams? No. I'd rather practically every high school. I'll have to see if I can dig out the Moreno Valley ones, if I got some of that. I doubt it. My mom might have saved some of it. Every high school in Riverside, San Bernardino County had a motocross team in high school. Now, you won't even let them outside of the classroom without being escorted in case they might trip over the broken sidewalks and all the crap in there. Holy cow. Gotta love the Rancho Sea cops. They had a targeted crime suppression operation on smash and grabs, July 12th through the 25th. Great job, Rancho Sea coppers over there. Oh, the witch is back at it again. More evidence. Her Highness lie, cheat, and steal. More evidence, more broke today. Like we didn't know, Hillary Clinton made all this stuff up, made up the Russian hoax, got Obama on down to roll it out, and then threaten everybody who disagreed. The indictments need to come soon, along with everything else. We'll cover this and much more, the local and some of the national and California news, coming up in the rest of the hour. There's funky slide guitar music that comes in every Monday through Friday, live at 5 in the Evil Hippie Network, Romolex, YouTube, on the Roy Blecker channel. All that good stuff, of course, will be joining the Mighty at 1490 AM at the bottom of the hour, as we usually do. Fontana, Rialto, Muscoy, wherever it was, 4.4 shaker and a couple threes earlier. Man, we've been getting a lot of these 3, 4s, and sometimes 5s all up and down. Seems like the corridor from the Inland Empire all the way down to San Diego. There's a few faults, the San Andreas, the San Jacinto, the Elsinore fault. There's some pretty major ones, San Andreas being the biggest one. San Jacinto's pretty good, so is the Elsinore. They're pretty major faults on that whole thing going on. But I don't know, maybe it's a thing to come. But with all this insurance coming up, the only one that is this pool of the states, like the fire insurance is on your earthquake deal. If we have a major earthquake in that, I can almost guarantee you the whole insurance thing on earthquake's going to go totally freaking broke. There's no way that could be sustainable. The regular insurance companies got out of the earthquake insurance, God, decades ago. And if you look at it, well, in sense like the 400% increase for the lady in Fallbrook, just in the last 4 years, it's practically doubled every year. Earthquake insurance used to be, well, it was as much as your dang homeowner's policy, pretty close. And then that was a couple years ago, and then they really spiked the homeowners. But I fail to think what's going to happen if we have a good 7.0, like a Northridge, I think it was 6.9 or something like that, the Somar quake. We have a real good one, or if the big one hits, the old San Andreas fault, as they say, caps off somewhere, well, anywhere, because the San Andreas fault runs from San Diego basically to Eureka. And that's the one, if it goes, half of California is going to float off into the ocean and all that. But we're having more a crisis a day seems to be simple going on here of what we're rocking and rolling with. One of the things, and I think we're going to pick up on the foster care after we join the Mighty Met 1490 AM, because I want the radio audience to get on this whole thing with the I don't want to say the word shabby treatment the foster kids get around here in Riverside County and have been for decades. This hasn't been a new problem, and they just don't seem to be able to fix it. But one of the troubling aspects of that was the Karen Spiegel. And I think with all the stuff, Karen Spiegel saying, hey, we used to export them out of the state before Gulag Gavin Newsom said we couldn't do it because they did it better out of state. You know, there was a time when California was the gold standard of everything. Education, economics, opportunity, tourism, manufacturing, defense capital, defense manufacturer of the world, Southern California, up until the 80s. From World War II to the 80s, the biggest hub for military defense contractors was in Southern California, bar none. We had Northrop, Lockheed, General Dynamics, and hundreds, if not thousands, of job shops and related industries to service those big corporations that were in the defense. Northrop. It was the biggest industry. Oil and that were the biggest industries in California up until the 80s. But as the world turns, I wanted to get to this because this is some extremely, other than the Texas, and what's really, why I pointed out that Harry Enton one of the Texas and showed them how in 2020 they went from plus 17 Hispanics, Texas, and to Biden to plus 10 to Trump. And that was pretty much all across the country except California. The California Mexican voter votes very different, almost exactly the opposite of everyone else. That is a big topic behind the scenes. Most of these gutless politicians, broadcasters are so gutless. They're such pussycats. Pussycats. They won't discuss the real reasons behind this. But it's steeped in racism and control and keeping you on the plantation, like Mason Weaver said. They've really got a lock on Mexican in California. But we'll deal with that. Well, that's an ongoing theme going on. But I can guarantee you will not hear that broadcast anywhere but on IE Newswire by me. I bet. I'd almost bet the farm. There might be one or two people that got enough guts to say it. But I wanted to get to this chart. This is from Pew Research. And this is their latest polls by age and gender. And you see the dramatic shift in those, especially, mostly, the biggest jump, 18 to 29. Look at men and women. In 2023, that's the chart over on the left. In 2023, 62% of men and 65% of women either identified or lean Democratic. 36% men, 30% of that. Pretty close. Now, not as, but look at the shift in 18 to 29 men. Republican, they shifted 44 points Republican in 2 years. From 34 to 62. Almost an exact opposite. From a 2-to-1 flip Democratic to a 2-to-1 flip Republican. Women went 14 points, 58 to 37. Just about 7 off one, 7 on the other. So it was not as big as a shift. But the traditional, now up to 2023, that was a traditional look. As they said, if you're not a liberal when you're 20, you have no heart. If you're not a conservative by 40, you had no brains. And you look at that, 62% Democratic, lean Democrat, down to the 40s, let's say 45 average, 64% average, 63% average, 18 to 29, 45%, and basically a 50%, going from to 50% Republican on the 65 and older to that. So you see the progression as the old adage is, as you got older, you got more conservative. Now it's going completely opposite. Almost. 18 to 29-year-old men, if you take that, are the most Republican leaning just 2 years later. And you see the only ones in 2 years that have tracked more Democratic are women 30 to 49 and men and women over 65. And that's that 50s generation. I don't know what happened to the ones that were born in the 50s from 65 to 75 now. Some, they got dropped on their head. Because they have been, well, that's when the college education and the the me and the now and the, men are evil stuff really started. And as they've gotten, that was first education, and they were the ones indoctrinated, and now they are some of the most liberal ones, 65 to 75. Because you take 75 and older and you go back, boom, they go way center right. 55 to 65, way center right. 65 to 75, first time ever, they've been plus Democratic across the board and trending more liberal. But the big news in this, like we said, is the shift, the trend that, and this is because especially the Gen Zers, the millennials know they got screwed, but they're, again, too much of a bunch of pussycats to say anything. The Gen Zers are standing up and saying, hey, we ain't taking this crap anymore. We heard Donald J. We love Donald J. We're not going to sit there and listen and you tell us Kamala Harris has a brain. You're not going to sit there and tell us Joe Biden is the smartest guy and running 26-mile marathons while you're shoving illegals and the highest prices and inflation and killing us and we can't buy a home or anything else. That's what this Pew Research, not part of the vast right-wing conspiracy. To be calling Pew Research center left would be kind. They are very left. But they've been studying this. They've been on this ethnic stuff, and this is the biggest switch ever.
Hey, Roy, you got a minute?
Yeah, at least we're on today.
Yeah.
Keep our fingers crossed.
Yep.
Of that. As Sean said, we'll be joining the Mighty Met 1490 AM here in about, a little less than a minute. But no, this chart says right here, again, biggest flip in 2 years. In 2 years, biggest men, 18 to 20, biggest, 62%. Either are identifying Republican or leaning Republican. Highest percentage.
30 seconds.
And that's 2 to 1 over what they were 2 years ago. Big shifts are coming. I hope those who are for life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness play our cards right, because we will dominate politics, and we even be able to flip California.
Here we go. 10 seconds.
America, PatriotSwitch.com.
IE Newswire Daily is on the air.
The following is a paid program. Views and claims expressed are those of the program producer and are not endorsed by this station. Not necessarily those of employees or affiliates.
There's that funky slide guitar music that comes on every Monday through Friday live at 5:30 on the Mighty Met 1490 AM, broadcasting all over the Inland Empire and the aforementioned AM band. Join your vast video audience in the Evil FB Network, Rumble, X, YouTube, and the Roy Blecker channel. Lots of stuff going on. Hillary, new documents got released in the Russiagate. It's even worse than probably has been reported before. Some of the stuff, I mean, if they're documents that are getting released now that have been buried by Obama and Brennan and the whole crew for 9 years, how they keep them, this just proves Trump 1.0. There were a whole bunch of Benedict Arnolds in that administration. Trump didn't even know what the hell was going on. They were keeping this stuff from the president of the United States because he was the target of this whole thing cooked up by Hillary and delivered to you by none other than Barack Hussein Obama, who had to green light all of this stuff. Biden, Brennan, Comey, Strzok, and all those were just following orders. The polling that's come out and the shift, right, from 34% of 18 to 29-year-old men Republican to 62%, a 44-point switch in 2 years, is absolutely stunning as we went through the chart of that. Insurance going up like crazy. One homeowner in Fallbrook, 400% increase in the last 4 years, over 900% of that. Healthcare insurance up 300%. In a decade or so. All this stuff, don't let the cancer, you know what's coming. You across the nation, you see what's done to your health care? Look at what's happening to auto and homeowner insurance in California, going crazy. You don't stop this stuff, you'll be next. EPA chief, Lee Zeldin, said, we're not telling you can't buy electric cars or electric lawnmower, or a gas lawnmower, or gas leaf blower. We're just saying we're giving you the choice. You want to buy a gas-powered one, or diesel, or hydrogen power? You want to get a rubber band and wind it up and turn a propeller? Whatever trips your trigger. No mandates. Like he said, and he reiterated it on Fox News. We want gas cans that actually pour gas out of the freaking can. Government gets it where it takes you 6 hours because it's going drip, 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 because we got to have 27,000 safety procedures because one idiot blew himself up. There's a reason they call them the Darwin Awards. One of the very troubling aspects that's been going on in Riverside County, and it's been an issue for decades, but the treatment of foster kids, not only in Riverside County, throughout the state of California, is horrendous. It's absolutely heartbreaking. And we really, if we can't take care of those, the kids who can't take care of themselves, orphaned, abandoned, had parents that are just, out of shape, in jail, nobody to take care of them. That's what government should be doing. We as a society are going to say, okay, there's going to be a certain, 1% of the kids or something of that we're going to have to take care of. And there should be no question, there should be no stone unturned left for those kids in that situation. And we have continued to treat them like dirt. After spending, we've had the Larson report, I don't know how, with their $20-30 million in reports and this, and we're going to fix it, and we're going to do this, and we're going to buy this facility, and we're going to do... Shut up. When? We're spending god-awful amounts of money, adjusted for inflation, than we ever have. And the problem gets worse. No more than the Turpin case. And as horrific as the House of Horrors was in the first reports, and those 15 kids that were locked up and being tortured practically every day of their lives, and thank goodness for that one kid who had enough guts to escape. And they were turned over to the care of the county. And people donated hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars to take care of those kids. On top of whatever they held a gun to our head and took our money to do this. And they blew it again. At least half of the 15 kids, I believe, are suing and getting the same treatment, sexual abuse and everything else, or the allegations again. And nobody knows where the money, the extra money that was donated, well, where did it go? Oh, we don't know. Oh, yeah, you do. Why don't you tell us? Instead of talking about accountability and transparency and everything else. As you see up there in the inset, the grand jury did a report on the Harmony Haven complex. I believe it was a private deal. It's out in Beaumont. They were keeping some of the kids, some of the hardened, toughest ones to deal with. It was so bad, then the county gave them $26 million to buy it out because of all sorts of... We still haven't gotten the whole truth behind what the hell was going on. But were they operating without the proper licenses and permits and protocols and everything else? We're gonna run my public. There were two public speakers, myself and Jackie McCrae, who's been on this for years, if not decades, along with many others. Here we go. We thought, Here I come up to the podium. And should start speaking here pretty soon.
And the report from the grand jury who's watching the kids. We come up here, multiple peoples, Jackie being one of them, Miss Mercai, and lots of people in this community have pointed out what's been going on. We had the House of Horrors, the Turpins. It is as big a disaster as that was the first time, when they were 100% under your control at the County of Riverside, you failed again. You failed those kids. It still keeps coming up. Why? Millions, tens, hundreds of millions in consultants and everything, and we're still back to the same thing. These are some of the kids that, if anyone needs help, they do, and they don't seem to be getting it, and that is extremely sad.
Thank you.
Jackie McCrae.
So it is. I mean, there really isn't words to describe it. Well, there probably are words. Usually have 4 letters in them, of the utter failure that's been going on with this. And I understand, I've been around this stuff for parts of 7 decades, and I understand what the government does. They try to give you a cookie to go away. They try to placate people to get them to stop. And in most cases, it works. But a few people will stick in there and hang with it. Here's Jackie McCrae, who's been on this, like I said, for years or decades. She should be coming on in a second as they get the phone system.
Over the last several years, I've spoken to this Board of Supervisors about the dysfunction and lack of leadership at DPSS, and the serious issues being intentionally overlooked at Harmony Haven. In private meetings with Kevin Jeffries, Jeff Van Wagenen, Jeff Green, and Jose Medina's chief of staff, and 2 staff members, I shared the fact that drugs, including fentanyl, sex acts amongst the foster kids, and human trafficking were among the many concerns happening at a Harmony Haven. To my shock and disgust, you were all aware of the Harmony Haven safety issues. DPSS has equal, if not more, complaints and lawsuits than the Sheriff's Department, and myself and my team have been asking for an oversight committee for DPSS for several years. If the Sheriff's Department needs an oversight committee, then absolutely DPSS should have an oversight committee, because too many children have died under the current DPSS leadership, as well as under the watch of the Board of Supervisors.
We only got 1 minute because of the whole fiasco that was going on with the Oversight Committee on the Sheriff's Department, which Jackie mentioned. Yeah, the oversight somebody needs to be fired. Lots of people need to be fired for not doing their jobs, and I'm trying to be kind. This can't keep happening. Oh, we're trying to do better. Oh, we got this to fix it. This stuff can't keep happening. I mean, it's utterly ridiculous. Again, I want to play Karen Spiegel's comments. If they're such badasses and they got their act together down there at Riverside County on everything.
The things that aren't said, and you're only hearing the negative. And there is much more to it that I just do want to make one statement. I don't think you will do that. And that is, for these high-level youth that we have, that she was referring to in Harmony Haven and that Mr. Bleckard was. The challenge we have is we used to have resources that we were able to meet those needs of that kind of behavior with places, but quite often they were out of state. Governor Newsom does not allow us to take any children out of state, even though there's better resources for some of these behaviors that we're trying to work through with these young folks.
I think that's a big negative I wasn't even aware of. Karen. You guys claim you're doing this more. I can guarantee you, you guys spend more money on facilities and salaries and everything that those out-of-state one does. Why were they doing it better? And how poor, as Jeff Van Wagelen said, we're going after spending 26 or whatever the number was ridiculous that we bought Harmony Haven in. Now we're putting another $150 million into it. Where is the evidence? Supervisors, Jeff Van Wagelen, that this is going to fix it. You have never done it yet. In fact, when you're given opportunities and the spotlight, and again, if there was ever a case that should not have had a second outcome, it's the Turpin case. You knew everybody was watching that one. That's why the report, as you see on the bottom, is who's watching the kids? Who was watching the kids the second time? Because after they got out of the House of Horrors, even though you guys were, you're supposed to be looking at them, after you got all 15 of them out of there and away from their despicable parents, they were 100% under your control, and they got screwed over again. They got abused, or the allegations are, where's the money going? Again, hundreds of thousands, millions of dollars on top of our tax money was donated. So those kids could hopefully, not that they're ever going to be completely straightened out, they never will be. They'll live with that horror the rest of their life. But hopefully we can get them back to a life where they can at least have some quality to it.
Mr. Van Weyden, you want to add on anything?
Thank you, Supervisor. First and foremost, Harmony Haven is a visionary project that was set forward by the Board of Supervisors. If we go back in time roughly 2 years, there were concerns and complaints, not just in Riverside County, but across the state of California, of the most difficult to place foster children staying in conference rooms and office buildings and having difficulty with getting services. So this board bought the property out at Harmony Haven to create an environment that really could take care of the most vulnerable children, the most difficult to place in our community. The state of California was well aware of our efforts and was supportive of our attempt to create that transitional shelter at that location.
The state of California, which Karen Spiegel just told you, cannot handle the job, has not handled the job. We, in fact, had to import them out of state because we could not handle the job. And then the evil politicians from Newsom on down. I want to know if Medina might have been, maybe even, well, Manny was out before Newsom got to be governor. What were they doing in the state assembly? Because Victor Manuel Perez and Medina were both in the assembly of the state of California. Why don't you come up with some answers? This way, now, you don't need an oversight committee. You need the Board of Supervisors. The Board of Supervisors, Jeff Van Wagelen, put it on the agenda. Put a study session on. Put all 5 of you up there, all the staff, and give us all a chance. I don't want any supervisor, no ad hoc committees or that. I want every one of them to hear every bit of evidence and testimony so they can't say, well, I didn't hear that, or I didn't know. The time for the BS is to stop. Just like with the Sheriff's Oversight Committee. We don't need no more committees or commissions. Like I said in the oversight one, if you want things really fouled up or you want nothing done, form a committee or a commission. The Board of Supervisors were paying them a compensation package over $250,000 frickin' dollars a year. They can do their frickin' job. You don't need to, you have plenty of time to meet with the Economic Advisory Committee and all the hobnobbers and go to the parties, but you don't have time to take care of the foster kids. 35,000 frickin' employees in the city of Riverside, the county of Riverside, and we can't get this done. And you say you dispute that, then have a study session and invite the grand jury members in there and or tell them where they were wrong. Don't hide behind or try to bury it. Or we're going to put it in a position. In fact, if me or Jackie wouldn't even said anything, no, they wouldn't even said anything about this. They would have passed it, would have been on the agenda passed, nothing else. None of them, not one supervisor pulled item 3.4, that is this, for a discussion. There are only 2 people out of 2.5 million in Riverside County did. That was me and Jackie McCrae. More people need to start standing up. Because they're doing this to you. They're doing this exact same thing to you. Now, maybe you might not be a foster kid or your kid might not be in it, but this is why gas is up. It's why you can't afford a home. It's why the roads are clogged. It's why the schools are in trash condition in California and everything else. Jackie made a good point. Everybody was down, big crowd, 75 speakers on the Sheriff's Oversight Committee. There needs to be more than 2 people talking about this issue. Because as important as the Sheriff's Department is in public safety, in my mind, this issue even ranks on top of that. So hopefully we'll get more attention. At least we're going to try to get it out on this venue. Man, oh man. See if we can hit some of the stuff on the local genre of news events that go on in the Inland Empire that hardly anybody covers anymore. Well, you get bits and pieces, but we try to put it all together in one spot for everyone to highlight what's going. Some of the regular news besides the sensational items, like we try to bring you on that. Car versus train in Jurupa Valley is from Lone Wolf News and Media. You see some of the aftermath and pictures of some of that issue. Man, if you hear, do not park on the tracks, and if you hear the toot, 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 I don't care if you got to push somebody off the road. Get off the train tracks. Trump's EPA is targeting key vehicle pollution rules. What that means for car makers. We had that with Lee Zeldin. Yeah, get rid of it. Let people have choices. There's Lake Elsinore in 1887. Bet you didn't think that it even existed then. Yes, it did. There's the pics of it. Hammett's Harmoniers Chorales needs a pianist and new members. So if you're into that, let them know. Here's another thing that's wrong. 1975 Arlington High School in Riverside motocross team. Look at over a dozen, probably almost 24 kids on the motocross team. Every high school back then had a motocross team, at least in Riverside and San Bernardino County that I know of. We all used to race against each other. Now, like I said, they got to have somebody hold somebody's hand to go to the frickin' bathroom. Is it? Oh, safety. 4.4 magnitude earthquake strikes near Fontana. Did that on the opening. Remember when nobody freaked out about this? Pickup truck, Moreno Valley High School parking lot, 76. Nobody said anything, and nobody bothered anything. 50 years ago. Society's come a long way. I don't know it's been that much more. Road closures around the 15 and 91. Copper thieves hit Redlands, causing thousands of dollars in damage and disruptions. Ride to Live. Chino Cops will help you learn how to ride a motorcycle if you don't know how, so take advantage of that. Warehousing and transportation jobs, which are probably one and the same or the same industry, are down in the Inland Empire, which was one of our leading employers. And banning your property tax bill may include fire mitigation charges owed to the county, so check that out. As long as that. Family calls for justice after father killed in boat crash with allegedly intoxicated San Bernardino County deputy. This is another one. Hemet Fire Chief Eddie Sell resigns. I think the Hemet folks have got some questions about that. We're going to have to dig deeper into that story. One critically injured in Beaumont deputy involved shooting. Rancho Cucamonga deputies find loaded firearm inside a vehicle during traffic stop. Man, oh man. There you go. Rivco Sheriff's Department admits to booking flaws led to inmate murder. That's in the press enterprise. Marietta Police Department and Hemet PD recently graduated a new patrol dog and went through the Basic Police Service Academy. Yes, our parents used to drop us off at the skating rink or just about anywhere else. And we're glad to get the hell away from us for a few hours and didn't think nothing of it. Boy, as things change. That'll do it for today. As we usually say at this time, mandatory you're back here in 23 hours. Why? We're the best darn show in the whole wide world. Until then, see ya.
The proceeding was a...
All right, Roy, I'm glad we got through it.
Yes, I think it was whatever's been going on. At least it didn't happen today.
Yeah, I wonder what the hell is going on. Why it's...
It could be a combination of things. I've had them kick a couple of the other ones off in the web. Some, maybe Frontier's connections have been kind of flaky the past couple of weeks. It could have been that. I don't know.
Yeah, that's probably it.
There's all... as usual, there's never usually any one thing. But I've been in one of those streaks, how you get into them where just everything seems...
Yeah.
It always seems to be something every day.
Yeah,
So-
well, believe me, I know.
So I don't know. But today we got the mic thing fixed this morning. So everything seemed to work good today. So hopefully, knock on wood, we'll have a good Friday to kick off the weekend.
Yeah, all right, sounds good, Roy. I will talk to you tomorrow.
You got it.
Bye now.